Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It's Friday, July 19th. I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales and to give salespeople a place where they can ask questions, get advice, and get the help they need to serve more people and earn more income. If you've been with us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we either do a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales or a live training. And today is no exception. I think you're going to be very excited when I introduce my guest today. He is a person who helps ordinary people achieve extraordinary results in both personal and professional growth. He is a mindset guru. Please welcome today's guest, Barry Lynch. Good morning, Barry.
Good morning, Jeff. How are we doing?
Outstanding, my friend. How about you?
Very good indeed.
Awesome. You may notice that Barry has a slight accent. Barry, where are you coming from today?
I'm from Dublin, Ireland, but I'm actually in Portugal at the moment.
Wow. All right. What are you doing in Portugal?
So I go between both. So I can be in Dublin sometimes, I can be in Portugal other times.
Lovely. Well, Barry, I've got a million questions for you about success and mindset and personal growth. But before we do that, could you maybe give us the 2 to 3 minute background and what brought you up to this point?
Yeah, so I suppose for me, I've been what I would call an entrepreneur since I was like 16. I started off even prior to being 16. I used to sell business cards to business owners on hot foil printing machine. I'd come up with this concept. And then when I got old enough to start buying cars, I started buying and selling cars. So I'd buy them, with a little bit of work needed, do them up and then sell them. And then I started buying like watches. I was a lover of watches. I used to buy a watch and then I'd hold on to it for a while and sell it for more than I bought it for. And then I'd find something else. So for me, it was always something, on the sales. I suppose that's what I felt I was good at. I then got involved with, at that time, a carpet cleaning business called ChemDry, which is very big in America. And I ended up with 3 of them franchises. I've had them for about 11 years. And then I almost traded that life in because I felt it was too much to go even worse again. I got involved with a 24-hour business, which meant that I doubled the hours. I thought I was giving them up. And I got involved with security. So I brought a franchise in from the UK. And when I say we, the brother and I, had that for like 23 years. I up and sold out out there about a year and a half ago.
Wow. So what is it about franchising that you like so much? What's the attraction there?
So I suppose for me, it was brands. So I've always been looking at, how something operates. And for me, when I got involved with a franchise, it's easier to sell something that has a name or people recognize a name than it is for not. So when I got involved with franchising and then I became a franchisor, it was quite easy because we were selling something that was already in the mind of people. So it was easier to associate, I suppose, a service with that. Now, I did have a franchise company and we thought we were being clever and we set up a little bit of a sideline thinking that, we won't pay these franchise fees anymore and we'll be clever. But you know what? It didn't work out. And we did everything exactly the same as what we did when we started the franchise. So I'd realized that's it. Get rid of it. Stick to what is good. Stick to what's no, and pay my franchise fees. Because most people used to have a problem with paying franchise fees. They say they don't, but they do. But in fact, it's actually well worth the money. And I'm not just saying that because I was a franchisor, but because I was a franchisee and I did what anyone would try to do and it didn't work out.
It's interesting you say that because this is called the Sales Pro Network, and I have a group coaching community called the Sales Pro Insider Network. And last week at our meeting, we meet twice a month, we were talking about being successful. And I said, just do what works. Forget about all the other stuff. Do what works. Like somebody said, you know what I've been doing lately? She's a great coach, by the way. Her name is Suzanne Taylor King. And she's saying, I've been going through my phone and calling all my contacts just to say hello, see how they're doing, and see if there's anything I can do for them. And I'm not even through the A's, and I've already closed 2 deals. I said, yeah, pick up the phone. Picking up the phone works. So many people waste so much time trying to do this thing or that thing or shortcut this or fancy that. And to me, it's all about the fundamentals. Do what works. And I think that's what you're saying, right, Barry?
Yes, 100%. Look, it's, most people try and invent the wheel. As entrepreneurs, we try to look for a faster, quicker way. But in most cases, there is no fast or quicker way. There is technology that can help you, but certainly from an aspect of, the way something is done, you follow it. And that's why franchising is so successful, because it's a step-by-step process. It's a business manual you buy and you just follow the manual. What happens with a lot of business owners, I find, especially now being in the, I suppose, arena of helping business owners, is that, a lot of business owners that approach me would be, wanting me to fix their business. But when we look at it, I know it's not the business we need to fix, it's the owner we need to fix, because they're set in their ways. They're not set in the concept of how it is meant to be. And that's where we go back to systems. If they have their system, they have their beliefs, their behaviors associated with what they have learned, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to work in that context. And when we look at the behavior of a business owner, whether they're trying to make sales or they're trying to grow a business, we just have to change that behavior. And like as you said, pick up the phone, start ringing people. The amount of people that won't do that is unbelievable.
Yeah. And I like what you said about, looking for the easy way. I often tell my clients, I've been in sales for almost 5 decades now. And for almost 50 years, I've been looking for the easy way to make a lot of money in sales. Haven't found it yet. I found a way to make a lot of money in sales, but not an easy way. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes planning, it takes discipline, it takes a lot of stuff. And you are a mindset guru. I'm curious, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in your life?
Well, I suppose the biggest lesson that I learned is almost like what you just said a couple of minutes ago. I spent 20 years trying to find the easy way. And after 20 years, I realized actually there is no easy way. There's only one way, and that's the right way. There's easier ways that can help you, but it certainly is not going to get you rich quick. And that's the problem. It's the shiny object syndrome. People think that, they have this big advertisement, and it's a marketing thing. It plays with your mind to believe that, this is it now. If I spend this money, that's it. I don't have to work as hard as I used to. But it doesn't work like that. Earning 100,000 a year, earning 500,000 a year, earning 2 million a year, they're all different processes that you have to adapt to allow you to be in that mindset to do it.
Yeah. And I think we not only want it to be easy, but we often, many of us, make it more difficult than it has to be.
Yeah. Sure.
It's almost like we're thriving on the difficulty. And look, it's not easy to make tons and tons of money, but you can, and we don't have to make it harder than it has to be. There are certain things that, there's the old saying, success leaves clues. Well, why would you want to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? It doesn't make sense to me. One of the things I do when I'm preparing for these interviews is I go to people's websites and I go to their LinkedIn posts, and I looked at a lot of yours and I'm going, yep, I agree. Oh yeah. Oh, I want to talk to them about that. What does choice have to do with being happy? Almost everybody says they want to be happy. And you posted something which I said 100%. What does choice have to do with being happy? And why is it that so many people who seem to be highly successful financially are not really happy?
Yeah, so for me, I've noticed, like I did it the hard way first, and I wasn't happy. So, I had $1 million business, I had lots of money, I could do what I want, I could go where I wanted, but everything was revolved around the business, everything. Every decision that had to be made, the chaos that was surrounding that. And I used to think that this is the way business is. People suing me suing people. It was just pandemonium. And it was like, as I said, 24-hour business. So it was 365 days of the year. Christmas Day, Stephen's Day, you name it, we were out there working. But it didn't have to be that way. So that's where choice comes in. That's the way I used to think it had to be that way, because that's what I grew up with. I grew up on the basis that you had to work hard to make money, but actually you don't have to work hard. You have to work smarter, not harder. So when I realized that, I stepped out of my business and I start looking into the business, and I start watching the functions of what was happening with the business. And the funny thing about this, Jeff, was like I'd read the book from Michael G. Gerber like 20 years ago, but I never applied it. And 20 years on, I'm now sitting back looking at the business. I created everything around it. And now my turnover doubled. We went from 1.2 million to nearly 2 million in a very short period of time. And I was doing 4 hours a week. So I was able to do everything I ever wanted to do, not being in the business. So I was the problem, not the business. So it was amazing to see that. And now when people do question me, which is okay, I don't mind that. They say, like, what makes you think that you know it all? It's like, because I've been there. I've actually done it. So that's how I know. And not only have I done it for myself, I've done it for other people. So it's not only did I have a transformation, I gave other people the chance to have a transformation. And that's where the magic is. That's where your choice is. When you see somebody knowing that you've been to that place and then they change in front of your eyes and they come back and say, thank you very much. Oh my God. You go, yeah, it's amazing. That's the best
Yeah.
feeling ever.
Yeah. I think that part of it has to do with personal responsibility and how many people don't accept that they're actually responsible for their own success, their own health, their own happiness, and all that other stuff. And what my feeling about choice and happiness is that actually everything is a choice. Everything's a choice. You choose to be happy, you choose to be sad, you choose to be ecstatic. It's all a choice. And I mean, look, I've invested a lot of time and money in speaking to personal gurus like you and attending seminars and sitting in audiences, reading books and all that stuff. And it really boils down to some very simple things, that you are responsible. And when you accept that you are the one who's responsible for your success or your happiness or anything else, you realize you can make that choice. And look, is there a time when it's appropriate to be sad? Yeah, I guess if you just lost somebody who you love to some disease and they're dead, it's not appropriate to go around, hey, I'm so happy today. It's appropriate. But for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, I choose to be happy almost all the time. I often say that I don't want to walk outside at lunchtime, walk across the street to go to the deli to get a sandwich, get hit by a car, and have my final waking thought on this earth be, oh man, I wasted my last morning on earth being pissed off about something that makes no difference whatsoever. The guy that cut me off in traffic the other day. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
Tell me a little bit about, why is gratitude important to success? We hear a lot about an attitude of gratitude. Why is that so important to success?
Well, for sure. Look, if we look at the concept of gratitude, like, what are you thankful for? I do it every morning, every evening, and literally, it's part of my process. I'm thankful for my health, and thank you for my wealth. I'm a strong believer of having achieved what it is you want to achieve before having achieved it. So you're being grateful for having achieved something that you haven't achieved yet. But what you're doing is you're manipulating the mind to believe you're already there. And then the mind will serve the how to get there. So when people used to say to me, like, don't worry about the how, I'm going, but you have to, because you got a plan. I got a plan how this is going to happen. No, you don't need to do that. And I say, oh my God, these are crazy people. But now it was like 20 years on. Now I understand the concept. Because look, aren't you better off with a plan than without a plan? If you get up in the morning and you just run through your day, you're drifting. But at least if you believe you're already there, well, now it's something to look grateful for. Now you believe it's happened. You walk, talk, eat, drink, and sleep like what you want to be. And then all of a sudden, time goes and it happens. You go, oh my God, this is magic. But it's not magic. It's just you manipulating the concept.
So it sounds to me like you're talking about the difference between the way most people think, which is I'll believe it when I see it, as opposed to I'll see it when I believe it. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, so if you look at Neville Goddard, Power of Awareness, his little book, it's a quick read,
Right.
but he talks about the power of awareness, having achieved what it is you want to achieve, whether it's what you're going to do the following day. How many times have you heard somebody say, oh, the thoughts of tomorrow, I know what's going to happen, blah 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 blah. Whereas if you go, yeah, I know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a different way than what you think is going to happen. And if it happens in the way I want it to, well, then you're on and up. If something happens in the middle, well, it doesn't matter, because you then deal with it, because you've got a positive mindset. So being grateful and thankful is actually helping you achieve what you want to achieve, as opposed to, attracting the opposite.
So I'm with you. How does one practice gratitude when the evidence doesn't make us think we have things to be grateful for? I mean, I do believe there's always something to be grateful for, but admittedly, not everybody is rolling in money and loving their life. And, sometimes there are pretty crappy circumstances. How does somebody who doesn't see the evidence in front of them of their life being worth being grateful for, how do you shift that?
Yeah. So look, when you look at, for sure, probably 90% or even 99% of people, it just doesn't happen. Okay. Because it's like the law of attraction. You start off with great intentions. It's almost like going to the gym. You start off with great intentions. You're going to put on muscle or lose weight. And after a short period, it doesn't happen. So what happens? The mindset kicks in and you give up. You walk away. But it's almost like the same thing when it comes to the law of attraction, or using the assumption of having achieved what you want. You're going to have bad days. Life happens. Like things happen. You'll have your ups and your downs, but it's how you deal with them is what will reflect the outcome of it. Because things will happen in your life that are going to draw you back to whatever it is you're trying to get rid of. The paradigms never go away. They're stuck there forever. So if you let them drag you or suck you back in, that's what's going to happen. But if you fight them, and that's where being uncomfortable comes into play. You can be comfortable being comfortable, but you're better off being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And then you start to see the real true magic happen.
So what are some of the different characteristics of successful and unsuccessful people? In other words, what differentiates winners from losers?
So attitude has a big problem with a lot of people, as I would have had in my past. So when you look at, and the reason why I say attitude is because people have different attitudes, and the attitude is based around their beliefs and behaviors. So they've grown up and they've been taught a certain concept. So now it's a paradigm. So now you're trying to change that, and they're uncomfortable with what you're telling them. So they don't adapt it. So therefore they won't accept it. And that's where you have a person that will not do what you ask them to do because they want to do it their way. Even though they know what they're doing is wrong, they still do it their own way. And that's like bringing a horse to water and trying to get them to drink it. So then you just have to, throw in the cards and just say, look, I'm sorry, I can't do this with you. You're not doing what I asked you to do. And even when they say, yeah, I'll definitely do it, and then they don't do it, and then they say, but I didn't get the results. Yeah, well, if you only do what we'd asked you in the first place. So I suppose what it is attitude, beliefs, and behaviors. If someone is prepared to change their beliefs and their habits, their behaviors, to adapt into what success is needed to get to where they want to go, well, then it will happen.
So much of what you're saying rings so true for me. Just yesterday, I was one of the services I offer besides training salespeople and coaching salespeople is managing salespeople on a fractional or outsourced basis. And I have a new client, and I was talking to a brand new salesperson that I just hired who just started this week. And I'm talking to her every day and training her and coaching her. And yesterday I said, how's the day going so far? And she told me that the owners of the company who hired me to manage this person, because they said, we don't know how to manage salespeople, come work your magic, that they gave her some assignments to do and have her started prospecting. I said, wait a minute. They told you to start prospecting? No, I don't know. I actually had a moment where I was like, are you effing kidding me? Now, look, here's the thing. They own the company. It's their money. They can do whatever they want. But why would you possibly hire an expert and then not take his advice? It just doesn't make sense. It's like people just want to fight against what works.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like it's how people operate. Like, again, people hire me. I remember one time I had a guy, and it was clear. It was clear what problems he had. And it was clear how we could solve them. Right, that was clear. Because what I tend to do is I look at the business itself, and I look at the concepts and the processes that they use. But then I start to look at the individual. But the processes that are being used tell me what the individual is doing anyway. So anyway, we started to make a lot of changes, but his wife came along and said to me, how dare you change all these things? She says, we've put them in place and you're telling him to do this and I'm not happy with it. And I was going, oh my God, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I said, I can't work with you. I said, because his wife was owning half the business, but she just wasn't happy. But that's a clear indication of when somebody just doesn't want to change their habits. But even though they're in the thick of a problem, like a financial problem, because when a paradigm sets in, it's like somebody telling you, no, this is the way you have to do it, and it works. And then you're waiting for it to work, but 6 months, a year, 2 years, or 3 years pass by, and you're still in the same problem. And then somebody else comes along and says, no, here's the way you do it. This works. And they go, no, I'm not happy with that. But the other partner's going, yeah, no, this is exactly what we need. And then you're caught in the middle. You're caught between two people, one that's prepared to do it and the other is not. And I had to walk away from it because I couldn't work with the difficulty of it. But I wanted to. And in fairness, I stopped working with them, but I still went back and helped him in the background with certain elements because he had to change her before he could start using me again. So I don't give up. And that's the thing, because it's different for different people. Some people work quicker, some people work slower, and some people take concepts on in different ways.
Yeah. I've done the same, a similar thing. I haven't gone back and helped, but I have fired clients who hire me for my expertise, and then want to tell me how to do my job. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't need anybody's money so badly that I want to work with them if they don't want to take my advice. Why would you hire an expert and then not listen? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I want to come back to something you mentioned a few moments ago, which, I'm a big fan of, the law of attraction. I've read the books and seen the movies and all that stuff. The one thing that I think that the law of attraction experts don't usually talk about is, yes, you do have to feel the right feelings and you do have to think the right thoughts, but $1 million isn't going to fly out of the sky just because I'm standing there going, I believe I have $1 million. I think the thing that's missing from most gurus is you also have to take massive action. Yes, think the right thoughts, feel the right feelings, but you've got to be in action. Your feelings on that?
150%. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you're into law of attraction. I'll give you an example, okay? I won't go into this story too much, but I'll give you an idea, right? So let's say it was somebody quite close to me, okay? And I started my personal development going back like when I was 16, 17 years of age. But this other member, let's say, also started seeing what was happening to me, so they started to follow it. But I'm a believer that, taking action. So I like gratitude in the morning. I list off what I have to do that day in order to get closer to my goal. So I have to take actionable steps. If I don't take them actionable steps, nothing happens. So long story short, I got into a vehicle with this person probably about a month ago. And on his mirror were his affirmations that he reads out. And they were the same affirmations that were there 10 or 15 years ago. And the difference between where he is and where I am are like unbelievable. And that was an eye-opener for me, because I'd realized this is exactly what's wrong. It's the action. But because I only really started to adapt a lot of this stuff probably 6 or 7 years ago. But prior to that, for 25 years, I was just literally on a roller coaster of problems and issues. But I was still, the law of attraction was working for me, but I just wasn't using it because of my habits. But I'd found that he was doing it and using it, but it just wasn't happening. And because he didn't take any actionable steps.
Yeah.
But I was. And that's the difference.
Yeah, you got to have both sides. It's got to be the thoughts and the feelings and the action. So why is it that we overcomplicate our goals and dreams? And what are some of the things that we can do to maybe simplify success and multiply our results?
So the first thing I always say to somebody is what do you want? What is it you want? They go, oh, yes, I want to have a dream house and I want to drive a Ferrari and, I want to have 10 girlfriends and all. I go, no, what do you really want? That's what you think you want. And even if I gave them to you tomorrow, you'd get so sick of them in a month, you'd go back to your old paradigm anyway. It's like someone win the lottery. They win $1 million or $10 million, and then 6 months later, they have nothing left. It's because the old paradigm will suck them back in. But when you go deep and you start to look at what you really want, what were you put on the planet to do? What do you enjoy? What puts a smile on your face? And I've sat with people, and they can't answer that question. But I keep delving deep, deep, deep. And I go back to when they were younger and when they were at school and when they, and then all of a sudden something like a light bulb will go on. And then you see a big smile come to the face. I go, there you go. What was that? What did you just feel there? And I go, oh, remember, I wanted to do ABC. And so why'd you do it? Oh, well, I got married and I had kids. Stop. That's what you got to start doing. I had a guy one time and he said to me, I wanted to, I love cycling and I gave it up when I got married. And I said, right, I want you to buy a bike, a two-wheel bike. And he said to me, I don't have the money. And I said, it doesn't matter. Buy a second-hand one. I said, go to a local shop. If you have to pay 10 euros for one, just buy it. Doesn't matter. As long as you can get up and the wheels move, I said, just buy it. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday afternoon, about 4 o'clock, he rang me. And he said to me, I'm up on the top of Dublin Mountains on my bike. And he said, what an experience. He said, thank you very much. And I said, and I bet you've had loads of ideas whilst you're cycling. He says, yeah, I did. See, because he got into his dream, what he wanted to do. And then he's coming away from his behaviors, his habitual state of behavior, the worry, the doubt, the fear, the money, the financials. And now he's thinking, now the universe is open to him. So he's starting to think naturally. And then the ideas flow. And that's the concept people need to get into. Because when you're in your daily work, you're in your habitual states. You're just getting done what you have to get done. And then time goes by, get to the end of the day, and there you go, oh my God, I didn't get all this stuff done. But like what I said, when I would done the 4 hours a week in my business, all the rest, I was working, but I wasn't really working. I was just enjoying my work because I was coming up with ideas. It was easier for me to, put concepts in place.
Yeah, fascinating. As a sales coach, I listen to every word that people say, and because I believe that one word can be the difference between closing a deal and not. And I heard you say, you got to find what you want. And in my coaching practice, I actually tell people, because the first thing we do is we set their goal. They set the goal with my help. I actually co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals, and I tell my clients immediately, I don't care what you want. I don't care what you hope for. I don't care what your dreams are. And I don't care what your wishes are. I only care about one thing. What are you committed to? Because nothing's going to happen about your dreams and your wants and your hopes, but what you're committed to, that we can make come true. How do you feel about that distinction? Am I full of crap with that, or do you?
No. So this is again, go back to like when again we talk about I did a book on setting and achieving goals and the difference between setting and achieving a goal. And the reality of it is look, you can pick a goal like the reality of it is I picked a home. I wanted to pay a particular amount of money on it, and I wanted it in a particular country. This is where I am now in Portugal. That's exactly what I picked. That was like 10 years ago. And then when you work towards it, you work towards that every day, but you have to take smaller steps and smaller goals to achieve the bigger goal. The biggest problem that people do is they set the big goal and they concentrate on the big goal, and then when it doesn't happen, they give up. Paradigm sets in, they fall away. But when you realize what the stepping stones are, what do you have to do? Set the date. What do you have to do each year, each week, each month, each day effectively to get there? And as long as you're taking the actionable steps, you start to see the transformation of starting to achieve it. And then that's what keeps you happy. Days, you're looking forward to the good days of it happening anyway. It's been wanting to drive a Porsche. Go visit a Porsche garage. Get into the car, go for a drive in it. Feel it, smell it. And then you're driving along in your little Mini, that's 30 years old and chitty bang bang, but you feel like you're in a Porsche. You smell like the leather. Oh my God. And then a Porsche drives by and you go, that guy's in my car. What's he doing in my car? So you're just creating the ambience of having achieved what it is you want. That's what will carry you to achieving the goal.
I love that. And I could not agree more that in my book, we call it baby steps. Break everything down into their smallest component parts, because it's hard to do big things, but it's easy to do little things. Like I always give the example, it's hard to lose 100 pounds. It's easy to lose 3.
Yeah.
And you actually have, I believe, 14 tips in your for setting and achieving goals. What are 1 or 2 more?
So the one is commitment, as you spoke about earlier. That's the very most important thing, because if you don't commit to something, it's not going to happen. The second thing, and the second most important thing, is decisions. Start to look at your decision-making process, because it will be your decisions that will decide whether you'll move forward or not. Once you commit to something, well, then your decision-making becomes easy. But if you make a decision based on something that's happened or an experience that's happened in the past, you can make the wrong decision. So I always say, when we look at or we listen to our intuition, you can pick up vibration with certain things. And some people think they pick up vibration, but it's actually their beliefs that are picking up, and not the vibration or the, intuition of what they want. So I always say to them, you've got to start focusing on that and listen to what your inner self is telling you. Whether it's God, whether it's something else, I don't know, but it's there. We all have it and we all can use it. And that's the thing about it. When you start to use that in the right context, you'll actually be focused. And again, I go back to like what I was saying, when you have a plan and you have a goal and you've made a committed decision to do it, well, the ideas are going to flow to you. If you don't listen to them ideas, nothing's going to happen. If you're stuck in your habitual state of behavior, they pass you by. So that's what my problem was. For 25 years, all these things were happening, but I didn't have time. So they passed by. When I started to sit down and listen, I remember going back, I met a lady, and she was fairly wealthy. And she said to me, oh, I'm on holidays this month, and I'm on holidays that month. And I was away for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I said, so when do you work? And she goes, I'm working all the time. I didn't get it. So what do you mean you're working? I don't understand. And she says, oh, if I'm lying on the beach on a sunbed, I'm working. And I went, very funny. But now I know what she's talking about, because she's still thinking about the process of her goals and how she's going to get there, but she allows the system to happen. She allows the thoughts to enter, and utilizes what she feels is right to do.
Fantastic. We're talking to mindset guru Barry Lynch. We're about halfway through the interview. We're going to take 60 seconds for a word from our sponsor, which is... Hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg, the founder of the Sales Pro Network. For nearly 5 decades, I've been selling, managing, coaching, and training salespeople internationally. And I'm often asked for one-on-one or private coaching, but it does involve a substantial investment. For that reason, I've recently developed the Sales Pro Insider Network community. It works like this. We get together twice a month on Tuesday nights from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. At the first session of the month, it's you and me, with me taking your questions and giving you the advice and help you need to both prospect and sell more effectively. At the second session of the month, we'll have a guest coach speaking on a fascinating topic that helps sellers like you and me. And of course, we'll do group coaching then too. The best part is the investment is just $27 for the first month, and there's no long-term contract at all. In fact, you can cancel at any time. Go to crushsalesgoals.com. That's crushsalesgoals.com. I hope to see you there. I'm very excited because our guest coach this month, which is coming up, I think this coming Tuesday, is Michael Leibowitz, the Mind Magnetizer. If you are in sales or marketing or you have a business at all, you definitely want to be there for this one. Michael uses neuropsychology to help people craft their message in a way that their prospects actually want to hear it. The guy's a genius. I've heard him speak more than once. If anybody's interested in attending and you're not already a member of the Sales Pro Insider Group, you're welcome to DM me or reach out to me through LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm happy to send you a free pass for this meeting. Just tell me that you saw it on the Sales Pro Network, and I will absolutely give you a free pass. Back to Barry Lynch, who is a mindset guru. Barry, we were talking about goals before, and you and I have both written books on that subject. And one of the things that I find is often, if not most times, we almost always want our path to our goal to be easy and effortless, but usually there are obstacles in the way. So any advice for how do we handle it when we hit that wall?
Yeah, so look, again, it comes back to decision making. When we're forced to make a decision on something, that's when we hit a brick wall, and that's when we go back to safety. So that's when the paradigms kick in. It's easier not to make a decision and go back to the way you were. So when you become proficient at decision making, you get used to the fear, anxiety, and stress. So what you do is you start to utilize it in your favor. So when you know it's coming up, well, then you prepare yourself for it. And then if you look, when we look at decision making process, it's because we don't know enough about what we're trying to make a decision on. So I always say to somebody, if there is something that you can't make a decision on, go off and find out as much as you can about it. Now, I'm not talking go to Google and get all these different, concepts or different arenas are surrounding the decision you're trying to make. Go to somebody that's an expert, but don't go to your mate down the road or your friend in the pub and ask him a question that's you and I both know that he's not going to be able to answer. But that's what people do. I'm thinking of setting up a business, or I'm thinking of expanding my business and doubling the warehouse space. Oh, I wouldn't do that. The economy is not so great. Oh, you're right. Yeah, no, I leave it. See, it's easy to let someone make a decision. So I go back to KPIs. What's the stats? What does it look like? Who's the competition? What is the problem of making the decision on it? What's holding you back from it? And then when you put it all into the right context, well, the desire and passion is going to bring you through it anyway. If you, like what we said 10 minutes ago, if you bring yourself through the process of committing to it, making a decision and moving forward, well, then decision making becomes quite easy.
Yeah, I always say, just make a decision. Be right, be wrong. You can always fix it, but make a decision. In sales, at least, the way brain science works is when we're making a buying decision, we try to protect ourselves. The brain naturally, by the way, this isn't good or bad or right or wrong. It's just the way the brain works. Yeah. We want to protect ourselves from making a bad decision, which is why so many people hesitate to make a buying decision. We don't want to look bad. We don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to lose our money or suffer any consequences. And we have to kind of fight the way the brain works and go, okay, I got it, but I trust myself. I think you were talking a little bit earlier, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, correct me, but about quantum mechanics. We're all plugged into this universal knowledge, and I believe that we always know the right thing to do. Call it feminine intuition, call it gut instinct, but we're plugged into this consciousness, and call it God or anything else. But we tend to not trust ourselves, and if you just listen. And many times people aren't even listening, that they don't believe that they could possibly be right because of our psychology, but just make a decision. And if it's wrong, fix it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. Look, it's almost like I say to people, don't listen with your ears, It's a funny thing to say, don't listen with your ears, but listen to your intuition. You're not listening with your ears. When I'm working with somebody, I can pick up what's going on, even though they haven't told me. But I would never tell them that. I would never tell them. All I know is that I have to pull it out of them and go through the concept. And then I know I've changed it when the transformation has happened. Because I haven't told them what they should or shouldn't do. I've just dragged it out of them in a different way. And then they've realized that, oh my God, this is what the problem was. And I go, yeah, I knew that, but I wasn't going to tell you. They go, well, why didn't you tell me? So I couldn't, because you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't have listened to what I was saying. But there's one thing that I always say to somebody, look, they say to me, how can I become a better decision maker? And I said, well, look, I trained with Bob Proctor and he taught me how to make decisions. And we went through a process of decision making. But certainly I found the confidence formula from Think and Grow Rich is one of the stepping stones. Because for me, I always consider myself as being, I wouldn't say cocky, but certainly confident when it comes to making a decision. And I don't care whether it's right or wrong, because I'll make it based on what I believe is right at the time. If it's wrong, I'll do whatever it takes, but I'll still come out the right end because I'm confident enough to do it. But I found a confidence formula from Think and Grow Rich, reading it every day for 60 days, which is difficult in itself, but it works. That's the difference. It changes the concept of the way your thought process works.
Love that. And Erica Williams asked, she said she'd love a pass to the event, please. Erica, I just put my email address in the comments. If you'll send me an email, I'll be happy to send you that pass. Something else I read in one of your posts was a phrase that I'm familiar with because I've done a lot of work in a program that used to be called EST and then became the Landmark Forum. You say that at one point in your career, you were an unconscious competent. Unconscious competent. For those who don't know what that is, what is unconscious competence and how does that affect your ability to succeed?
So again, when you go back to my early days of what I would call being an entrepreneur, I started off with the carpet cleaning business. So every day I got up, I went out and looked for business, I got more business. And then it got better and better and better, busier and busier and busier. And then it kept growing and growing. And then I sold it and then I bought in the security franchise. And that did the same. We started off with like £700 turnover back then was the first month. And, I was used to, at that time, a lot of money with the other franchise I had. And I was going, oh my God, what have I done? But then after about a year, all of a sudden we're up to 100,000. Then we're up to 500,000. Then we're up to 1 million. So I didn't actually know how I was doing what I was doing. But I do know I had programmed myself to do it. But because of my paradigms, I didn't know. So I was an unconscious competent. I had programmed myself to do something without realizing I'd done it. And this is what people do every day. You get up at the same time, you go to bed at the same time, you go and sit in your living room, you sit in the same chair. And if somebody sits in that chair, you'll walk in, you say, get up, that's my chair. You go, no, get up. Why? Because you'll be uncomfortable sitting in another chair. So that's an unconscious competent. I was comfortable doing what I was doing without realizing I was caught in being an unconscious competent. And then it was only, as I said, 7, 8 years ago when I started working with Bob Proctor, I'd realized that, oh my God, this is amazing stuff. Why did I not know this 23 years ago? I did, but I just didn't practice it.
You were doing it naturally. You weren't aware of what you were doing, though.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because when you are, now you become consciously competent.
Exactly. Now I know. And now the thought process goes into everything I do or say. Well, most times. We can't be perfect. It doesn't matter how good we think we are. There's nobody in this world perfect. And that's why I say to people, just because I say something doesn't mean I'm right, but certainly it will help to solve a problem.
I'm with you. There's something else in one of your posts that I said, of course, years ago, I decided to make a change in my business. I used to only do training for companies and mostly for large corporations. I've worked with companies that you know of, like Cisco Systems and Siemens and Aramark and State Farm and Citibank and all over the world. And I would sell the company. They would put together a group of salespeople. I'd come in and train them, get paid and go home. And at one point, I decided I was going to shift my model from selling to corporations to doing public seminars. In other words, I was going to still be doing the same thing, but I had to now create my own audience, and I didn't know how to do that. So I hired a very high-priced coach. And one of the things I discovered was I didn't want to change the model after doing some work with her. But the first thing she taught me is something you mentioned, and I'd like you to explain this to people who may not know it. There's a difference between working in your business and working on your business. So this was the first thing she taught me, and it was a real eye-opener. Can you explain the difference between working in your business and on your business and why both are important?
So one, for me, That's where the transformation was, because I had to get out of the mindset of being stuck in the business or feeling that I had to be there all the time. And I'd walk into an office and the girls would be blah 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 blah, and we go boom boom boom, make this decision, boom boom boom. So I didn't have time to even think about a decision, just made it. But the repercussion of them decisions was, detrimental sometimes to what had happened or what was going to happen. But when you start to create systems around everything, well, you don't have to make decisions because the systems cover that. And that's the difference between working in and on. Because now I was on the business, so I could grow it, I could market it in a context that would make it double. Okay. But when I was in it, I couldn't, because I'm making so many decisions that were bad decisions that were causing so many problems. And then the thing about paradigms when we look at it is we always tend to make the same bad decisions. So even though we've learned something, we then make the same decision and we have to learn it again. We go, I'll never do that again. And then what happens? You do it again. Whereas when you're working on something, you can make a mistake, you get your KPIs, you can start to monitor every aspect of it. And now, like, I'm working with a company at the moment, very similar to the size of my company I had. And it's amazing. I'm amazed, even though I did it myself, of what information you can drag out of KPIs. Like I had a sales meeting with all the sales team, and I couldn't believe it. They couldn't give me numbers for anything. So I just said, right, I made up a KPI Excel, and I said, right, I want to know the amount of calls you get. I want to know the amount of sales you make. I want to know the amount of appointments you get. So I want to know the amount of follow-ups you do every day. And I said, every week, just send them through. Now that's going to tell me where the bucket hole is, where the water's leaking through the bucket. And then I said, we can just fix it. And even when I'm gone, it's going to tell you how to do it. You just go and see where the problem is and fix it. When you work in a business, you can't see them holes because you're too busy doing absolutely everything. You're stuck in that habitual behavior state. But when you're working on it, you're focused. You're focused on the growth. And then you see the problems and issues. Like I had a situation with a car dealership, and he works with Facebook and Google and all these different SEO car engine companies, okay, that help him promote and sell cars. So the first thing I'd said to him is, which is the best? He said, I don't know. We set up KPIs for each one. And then he realized that, oh my God, I'm spending $1,000 a month for that company and I'm only getting one sale. I'm spending 500 with that company and I get 10 sales. I said, get rid of them or else go to them and show them what's happening. And I said, all of a sudden, when they changed it, his business nearly doubled for something so simple. And that's the difference you working on it. You could step back, you could look at it like as if you're, a business will always be there, whether you're there or not. It will still function. But if you can make it work in a systemized approach, well, then you don't have to be there. You just have to go in and check the numbers. The numbers will tell you where the problem is. And then you can identify it, you can solve it, and keep the engine running.
I'm giving you the smile of recognition because I walk into so many companies and I'm constantly stunned when I ask questions like, what's your average sales cycle? What's your dollar volume per sale? How many calls does it make to get an appointment and stuff like that? And they're like, we don't know. I'm like, just shoot me. Okay. We're going to know soon. So let's start tracking that right now. And interestingly, I didn't quite expect your answer to the distinction between working in your business and on your business. I didn't quite expect it the way you explained it. And I appreciate it. The way it was explained to me and the way I think of it is working in your business is what we do all day long, every day to make money. Going on sales calls, meeting with people, writing emails, all the things that we do to make money, I consider working in your business. Working on your business is disconnecting from all that and actually taking the time to think about what can I do better? What can I do differently? How can I pivot? Where are the opportunities? And most of us are so busy trying to get paid, we never take the time to take a look at, is there another way? Are there KPIs that I should be looking at? There's a million things you could be, but most of us are so busy trying to get paid that we're not actually thinking. And my coach actually tried to get me to commit to 5 hours a week at the end of every day, sitting for 1 hour, doing nothing but thinking about. And that's where I came up with, by the way, you know what? I don't think I want to change my business model. And I wouldn't commit to 5 hours, but I did commit to 3. So Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 4 to 5 p.m., all I did was sit back in my chair, look up at the ceiling and, what can I do differently? How can I be more efficient? And miracles started to happen because, like you, I believe we do know the answers, but if we don't take the time to think about them and actually ask ourselves those questions, we're robots. And that is kind of who we are. We're programmed. And unless we change that program, nothing's going to shift. Yes?
We can rewire our program. It's almost like a CD. You're burning the information to a CD every day. That's what you're doing with your mind. But you can burn what you want to burn. It's up to you. It's your choice. The mind can accept or reject. So what you feed it is up to you. So like what you explained it in a slightly different way, but it's actually the same way, because like what I said, it's an habitual state of behavior. You get up when you're in it, your habitual state of behavior means you get up, like what I was saying, you sit in the same chair, you're going to the same office, you're making the same calls. But all you have to do is change the habit and the behavior towards the habit, because the behaviors lead to the habits. So like what you said, she was trying to get you to 5 hours, but you've done 3 hours, but you changed your habit, and then it changed your process, your thought process, and it changed the business.
Awesome. You have a number of programs that people can enroll in. Two of them I really like the sound of. Could you tell us a little bit about Thinking into Results and Magic in Your Mind?
Yeah, so both are extremely good. They're like obviously both that I done. So these would be based around Bob Proctor. I'm a facilitator of Bob Proctor and Proctor Gallagher Institute. I'm a certified consultant for the last 7 years. So I actually have several different programs, 2 or 3 myself, and then 2 or 3 we do under Bob's wing or whatever. Thinking into Results was what changed my life, because it allowed me to think differently about the business and the way I thought. So I grew up where probably never wanted for anything, great parents, had the best of everything.
Uh-oh, Barry's frozen. Let's hope he comes back in a second or two. While we're waiting for Barry to come back, Erica said, my best thinking and reflection happens first thing in the morning before I even open my eyes for the day. Erica, I can't tell you how much I love that. Like you, I used to know the term because I've looked it up more than once. There's a name for the time between when you become aware that you're waking up, that first moment, you're not fully awake, but you're waking up. There's a name for that. And as soon as I do that, I consciously start thinking. First of all, I put a smile on my face physically, so because you're releasing the happy chemicals in your brain when you do that. And I start thinking today's going to be a great day. Only incredibly wonderful things are going to happen to myself and my family today. Oh, we lost Barry. Maybe he'll come back. Well, we only have about 10 more minutes, but maybe he'll make it back. So yes, I do the same thing, Erica. And actually, as I'm getting up and going through my morning, and of course I go to the men's room, and then he's behind me, so I can't. Yeah, I have to spell this. IWALK, my DOG. If I had said it out loud, he would have jumped up right now. But as I'm walking through my neighborhood, I go on for about 10 minutes saying things and reflecting about how I'm setting up my day and setting it up not for success and happiness, as opposed to so many people who I believe wake up and it's like, oh crap, I can't believe it's another day that I've got to go to work and struggle and blah, 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 blah. One of the things that I believe is that our mind has great power. We have great power if we just take responsibility for it. And one of the examples I love is, when you stub your toe, there's that moment before it actually hurts. But typically what we go is, oh no, and the pain comes. As soon as I stub my toe, I'm like, I'm all right. Now, am I never in pain? Of course, sometimes I'm in pain, but you do control. Welcome back, Barry. We were just talking about Erica, who posted, my best thinking and reflection happens first thing in the morning before I even open my eyes for the day. And I was explaining that same thing. I don't know if you know the term for it, but maybe you do. There's a name for that time when you first become aware that you're waking up. You're not awake yet, but I've looked it up numerous times and I can't remember it. But what do you think about that? About first thing in the morning before you even open your eyes is the best time.
Yeah, 100% for sure. That's when I do my auto suggestion every morning. So whatever it is I'm working towards, that's when I feel it's best, because that's when I do my gratitude. So I do say to everybody, I will do it 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes before I fall asleep, because I want to dream about what it is I'm going after. And then I want to wake up and start the day with what I intend to do to go after what it is I want. And then the rest is just the positive affirmations that surrounds that throughout the day.
Yeah, you might like this. People who come to my home are often surprised because my goals are written down and posted in both my bathrooms next to the mirrors where I stand up while I'm, doing business or washing my face or brushing my teeth and all that stuff. And people are always like, first of all, why are your goals so public? Why do you let everybody see them? And why would they be in your bathrooms? And here's why. it's the first place I go every morning. So as I'm going through my morning, I'm staring at my goals. It's also the last place I go at night. I'm reading my goals so that they're implanted in my brain, because the brain does not stop working while you're sleeping. Your brain is working all night long, not just while you're dreaming. So I'm with you 1,000,000%. You call it hairy fairy, call it woo woo, except this stuff makes a difference.
The reminders need to be there for sure. That's again, when we go back to habitual state of behavior, you get caught up in doing your normal day-to-day stuff. You'll get caught up in it. So what I used to do to help me with that when I first started, because again, I was caught in the old paradigms, I used to set my alarm clock on the phone. So people used to say to me I was a little bit grumpy, and I was grumpy because I was caught up in the business. So I was tired, I was burnt out. And I realized that. That's the one awareness I came. I realized that, Jesus, I don't smile. And then I had gone back to years ago where I started remembering where people, like when I'd be out with friends and they say, for God's sake, Barry, smile. I go, very funny. But now I know why they said it. I was obviously grumpy. But what I done was I set my alarm clock 3 to 4 times every day. And all it said was that it was actually 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And all it was a little smiley face, smile, Barry. And I used to smile. So I'd pick it up and I'd laugh at myself. And then I'd realize when I get into it, then I start enjoying my work, because I'd realize I need to be happy. And when you're happy, you're in a good place. And then it reminded me then to start thinking of my goals. This is what I was going after. So it was almost like a tiered effect to allow me to change my thought pattern.
Yeah, I love that you reminded yourself to smile. And while your internet had kicked you off, I was explaining that when I wake up, I physically put a smile on my face. I know I look like an idiot when I do it, but when you smile, it releases the happy chemicals in your brain, endorphins and oxytocin and all that stuff. I mean, there's some simple stuff that's not magical. It's just the way the body and the brain work. And if you accept responsibility and choose to make yourself happy, it's not that hard. And the circumstances may not always be great. Maybe you are overwhelmed by bills, and maybe your wife or your husband's giving you a hard time. You can still choose to be happy. I mean, look, I went through a miserable divorce for a year, and no matter how positive my attitude, it was still a miserable time. But I still made sure that each day I was as happy as I could possibly be while going through all that, and knowing that I was going to be, moving out and not being with my kids all the time and all that stuff. I could have spent years and years just crying and being miserable, except that's not my choice, because I do believe life is wonderful and life is short. I don't know how old you are, Barry, but I'm definitely closer to death than I am to birth. I intend to live to 120. I keep telling my kids I'm going to live to 120, and I'm going to be vibrant up until that last day. But the truth is, I may not make it that long. But it's the older I get, the more I realize life's going like this. To me right now, it's like New Year's. I find it hard to believe we're halfway through 2024. We're halfway through. It feels like it was New Year's yesterday. So you can choose to be miserable for the rest of the year, or you can make a choice. Let's make this happen. Yes?
Yeah, as you said, Jeff, look, it doesn't matter what circumstances, and it's very difficult. That's the most trying period of time, is when you're in that situation and you're trying to get yourself out, and people telling you positive things is not helping. But that's where your mindset really sets you apart. Like I spoke to somebody recently, and I said, like last week, I had a situation where I had to use what I teach on myself. For 2 days last week, I was hit with a couple of things, a couple of financial situations, and they were quite demanding and challenging. But I utilized my own, what I tell people to do. I was reflecting that on myself. And then I come out the other end and I realized that, what was I doing? Why was I allowing myself to fall into that category? I remember many years ago, and it just always reminds me when I'm talking about mindset. And I remember when I was going through my change, my transformation. And I was one Saturday, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And one of my engineers called me. And he goes, I'm after being hit by an effing bus. And he hung up. And I went, what? Oh my God, I've been hit by a bus. And I was thinking, is he lying on the road? Like, has he got a broken leg? Is, the vehicle all squashed? Because I was thinking this massive big bus. So like 10 minutes, these things are going through my head, and I'm panicking and, trying to get through to me, wouldn't answer. And, I was panicking. And then I went, hold on, slow down a bit, Barry. Take a deep breath, relax. I bet something small is after happening, and he has just created it more than what it was. So about another 10 minutes later, I called the guy. And I said, I could hear the driver of the bus screaming and shouting at him. So then I figured, okay, Let's hear what he has to say. Sorry, the bus had tipped the back of the vehicle and broken the light. That was it. Nothing else. And I was saying, there we go. There's where I could have almost manifested the outcome of something that actually wasn't the way. And it was just, and I know some people have said to me, oh, well, that's not necessarily the case. And I said, well, look, that's what I've learned. That's what I've learned. That's what I teach people to do. You can't, if you manifest something or if you consider it to be worse than what it is, well, then 9 times out of 10, it's going to be. But if you flip it on its head, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the way you want it to be anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to, we talked about responsibility more than once in this conversation. It's, you're responsible for where your focus and your attention goes. And the perfect example is when I went through that divorce for a year, I still had to work every day. I still had to go to work, even though I had my world was falling apart around me. I knew I needed to save some extra money so I could move out eventually, and I was going to have to support 2 households and all that. So every day I had to put on my happy smile and sell. And I just compartmentalized. From 9 till 6. I can't be thinking about my divorce and all the craziness that's going on in my life. I need to focus on, I got to support my family. And then at 6 o'clock, okay, I can go back to thinking about, how I feel about my soon to be ex-wife and how my life is going to change, worry and all that good stuff that doesn't really get you anywhere. So it's really taking responsibility again.
Yeah, like I've seen it so many times. I've seen very successful people, whether they 8-figure, 9-figure, whatever. I've seen them, something can happen and dramatically affect their actual life in many different ways. And that's where the help of somebody just to guide you, or just to, I suppose, just give you advice in a way that's pragmatical and effective, it can make such a magic difference. Even though at that particular time it might not, but it's only as you go through the process you realize that, in fact, yes, that's exactly what I needed. Because it is, life happens. There's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing. There's no magic pill that can solve that problem. It is a mindset thing.
Yeah, it's great. Barry, we are almost out of time, and I've got 75 more questions for you. Tough to pick one. How about this one? And before I do that, actually, Erica said it's all about mindset and perspective. Our perspective influences our reality in so many ways, including manifestation. Absolutely, Erica. Barry, are there some universal laws to success? And if there are, what are a few of them?
So my biggest one that I have learned personally over the last 33 years or 34 years of personal development is the law of assumption. Because you will see something different than the way I'll see it. And you will see your partner, your wife, different than the way I will see them. And that's what happens to most people. They will see something and they'll judge it and they'll assume it. But in fact, it might not be that way. So when I talk to people about something, I don't make an assumption on it. I'll presume. So that's why I always say the law of assumption. That's why I love Neville Goddard. Like if anybody wants to tap into Neville Goddard, have a look on YouTube for I Am in Barbados. That's what it's called. I Am in Barbados. And it's Neville Goddard talking about he's in Barbados in 1938. And it's amazing. And it makes so much sense. That will explain what I've just said without going too deep into it.
And you're talking about assumption. Are you familiar with a TV program from the United States called The Odd Couple?
Yes, I would sort of. Yeah, I sort of get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a famous courtroom scene in which one of the characters is, he takes a blackboard and he writes, because the witness, who is his roommate and friend, says, "I just assumed," and the other guy writes on it, "assume," and he says, "Here's what happens when you assume: you make an ass of you and me." Barry, we're out of time, my friend. I'm going to share my screen right now. Would you tell people how they can reach you if they're interested in speaking with you or finding out about your programs?
Yeah, sure. Look, the best place to find me is probably on Facebook, Barry Lynch's with an S, BarryLynchs, and then the same with LinkedIn. Under my LinkedIn profile, again, it's LinkedIn / Barry Lynch's with an S. You can get me, email me, or come through my website, barrylynch.com. For sure, any questions on Facebook, message me. We can talk about mindset. I have lots of free stuff. I give away free paradigm shifts, mindset shifts, free guides, anything that somebody wants. If I think I can help them, I don't expect anything in return.
Barry, thank you so much for investing some time with us today. Thank you for sharing your brilliance so generously. And I will end as I always do. Gang, remember that sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, Barry. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you very much.